My name is Danielle, and this is Trying Matters. If you're looking for a no BS type podcast, this is it. I'm here to help make life fun and interesting and learn right alongside you how to be brave enough to go against the grain. Here, we'll be talking about real challenges and fears that are holding us women back from living our lives to the fullest. So let's shake things up a bit and actually start trying. Hello, guys, and welcome back to Trying Matters, or welcome in if this is your first time listening. I'm Danielle, and today we are talking about forgiveness. Um, y'all know, if you're new here, you may not know, but um, if you have been here, you know that I like to talk about things that I'm experiencing in real time. So, this is one that's been on my heart for a little while. And at the time that I am actually recording this, um, I have I've just been thinking about it a lot, and I just got back home from mass. It's a Sunday at the time that I'm recording this. Um, and I just really had it on my heart to talk about this. So we're going to go for it. Um, so hopefully this is something that you guys can benefit from and get something good out of. So here we go. All right. So forgiveness. I know we've all been told that it is a very important part of life. And let's be real, it is not easy to forgive. Um, if you are anything like me, it takes a while to forgive, depending upon the situation and depending upon like what it is that we are feeling hurt by. Because honestly, like the whole reason a lot of times that we need to forgive people is because we've been kind of hurt by something that they've done or said, or a circumstance or situation that has happened between you and somebody else. Um, and like I said, I always want it to be something that's like quick and easy, and like I want to get it over with, because just in today's culture, I've talked about this before, like we want this immediate gratification, automatic, like, okay, this is where we are now. Now we've solved the problem. Now let's move on. And more recently, I've just kind of had this realization that that's just not how it works. And I mean, we've all had times where we've had to forgive somebody or we've had to be forgiven. So I know y'all have all experienced this and know what I'm talking about. Like there's it's a process. It's a process. And what I've realized in recently, the scenario that's been kind of heavy on my heart, I've had to sit with it for a little while, and it's because I knew that I wasn't ready to discuss it with the people that I needed to discuss it with. The situation that I've had a hard time with forgiveness on. Um and I knew that if I just went straight out the gate and like let's talk about this now, there would have been nothing productive from it. So um I'm going to kind of unpack that. So I always want it to be something quick and easy. Let's rip the band-aid off. Like I said, I know what the problem is. This is what I think the solution is, because if you're anything like me, like let's troubleshoot, let's find a solution to the problem and let's move on. And like I said, it's not that easy. Um and I've been really hard on myself because I'm just like, why? Why can't I let this go? Like I sat there and thought about it, and I got myself all torn up about it. And I went through like different stages. So initially, and if you can relate to this, snap with me to it. Initially, you have the sting. Ouch. Okay, so this situation happened. Say, your husband didn't tell you that he was going to be coming home late. Let's use that as our example. So the initial sting is, okay, he came home late and I wasn't expecting that. So I'm upset with him. I'm mad. I just cannot believe that he didn't tell me that he was going to be home. Okay. Um, so now I'm like thinking about how all of this impacts me, which we're going to get to that in a second. And why is it making me mad? So it's making me mad because it didn't meet my expectation. I had this idea of how tonight was going to go and it didn't go that way. And, why wasn't he thinking about me and how it would make me feel? Why didn't he think to call me to tell me he was going to be home late? Now I can't do this, and now my night's not going to go like this, and I'm not going to get to go to bed early, or I had plans for us to have dinner together and something special, and blah blah blah. So now, like, my expectations were not met, so I'm angry. And then he comes home, and then I could either choose to take it out on him, or I can be passive aggressive with him, or whatever. And I'm focused on how it's impacting me, not taking the time to even think about why was he coming home late and how is that impacting him? And in the grand scheme of things, does this really matter? So that initial sting, and then we can kind of hold on to it and then harbor it. And then like we start keeping this like not calculator, but like this tally of like, okay, he made me mad about this and he made me mad about this. And then he made me mad about this. And now I have just had it. And then we can explode, we can hold on to it and harvest this like anger and whatever else kind of emotions towards him. Or we can take the time to process, okay, why am I truly upset about this? And is it worth it for me to, treat him badly, or to be angry at myself for why I'm mad at myself or why I'm mad at him? Um and even though it upset me, I need to process through those feelings, and I need to kind of get to the root of it in order to realize, okay, this is why I'm upset. Now I know, and like I can kind of take it step by step and avoid going off on him or avoid being angry with myself, or and so on and so forth. So that's an example. But like with that, um, what I mentioned at the beginning, so I said, all right, he hurt my feelings. So now um I'm thinking of how it's impacting me. I feel like a lot of times when we are hurt and when we are holding a grudge, or we're in the need of seeking forgiveness, or trying to forgive, um we have this me, like, you centered focus, okay? And when we're only focusing on our perspective, it is so easy to go into that spiral of, oh, well, he definitely is thinking this. So now I'm going to respond like this. Or he's definitely going to say this when I tell him this. So I'm going to prepare this. Or they're probably saying this, that, and the other right now because of what they did or how I reacted or whatever. So we start creating this storm of what we think is going on, and then it makes us even more angry because it's like, okay, now I've created this entire picture. I haven't even spoken to the person yet, but I'm angry because I've now caused myself to get even more worked up about some specific situation. And it may not even be true. Like when I gave the example of, oh, he's going to say this, you don't know that he's going to say that. You haven't even given him the chance to say or explain or to give you his perspective or anything. You just are assuming that that's going to go how it goes because maybe that's how it happened in the past. Or maybe you've had experience with somebody completely different, and it was a situation with you and somebody else, and that was the way that they responded to a situation that was completely unrelated to you and him. But now you're comparing a situation from somebody else who's a completely different person, and saying that he's going to respond that way because you've seen somebody else that respond that way. Or you think that they're saying something and they're not even giving it half a thought. Like that's already done past and they're over it. Or they don't think that way. They don't think the same way as you. They're not as angry about a situation or get as heated as you do. So we're not giving that person the benefit of the doubt. We're not getting their perspective. We're not getting the full story because we're creating the entire story around our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and then we're completely ruling out what they could potentially be thinking, feeling, or their story at all, like the whole steps in the course of how things occurred. And that's totally not fair to that other person. Like when we stay focused on just ourselves and how it impacts us, it, it's unfair to that other person. And then like I said, it turns it into this bigger storm when it didn't even need to be. Like it could have been something completely different than what you initially thought and what you've turned it into with all of your thinking and insecurities and things, which brings me into a lot of times when we get hurt by things that other people do, say, or whatever, it's likely because there's a deeper insecurity there or a pain point that that person struck. So if you've heard the term like pain point, like something that makes you feel hurt or a past trauma that they kind of prick at, um, something that is deeper than just, he didn't tell me he was coming home on time. There's an underlying reason for why that set you off so much. And sometimes we have to kind of dig, like, why did that really set me off that much? It was something simple. It really didn't need to be this big of a deal. I don't need to be this angry about it, but I am. Why is that? What pain point was really struck there? And I've mentioned this before, but kind of doing those 7 layers of why. Okay, I'm mad because he didn't tell me he was going to be coming home late. Well, why is that? Well, he hasn't been spending a lot of time with me lately, and I was really looking forward to time with him. Well, why is that? Well, I feel loved when I spend time with him. Okay, well, why is that? Um, you know, why you're feeling not so now you're not feeling loved. Well, why? And you just dig until you find like the core of what it is. You keep asking why until you figure out, why does this really hurt? And the beautiful thing about figuring out why is then you can kind of process it. You can feel those emotions and you can really look at it from the lens of, okay, do I really think that he understood that by doing this, this meant this for me? By him not saying that he was coming home late, do I really think that he intentionally did that to hurt me? One, was it intentional? Was it spiteful? Do we really think that somebody who cares about us, that we have a relationship with, would do something out of spite and intentionally to hurt us? Likely the answer is no. But really think about that. If we know why, would they do that on purpose? So likely, no, that's not it. Another thing is we can feel the emotions that we're feeling. We can name them. If we know, okay, this is truly what it is. Now that I know that, I can feel these emotions and just let them kind of be. And sometimes that's the really hard part. And that's why it takes a lot of time and it's not easy, because when we have to sit in those emotions, and I'm giving a very, simple example here, but there are times where we have just a bigger problem that causes more emotions and more pain points are struck, and we have to sit longer and really, you know, tease out what those emotions are and really sit and feel them. And that's hard sometimes, but it's necessary. So that's another reason why we kind of want to figure out what the core reason is that I don't feel like I can forgive yet. Let me feel these emotions. Let me just experience them. Because if not, if we just bottle them and we hold them in and we don't do anything with them, eventually we're going to explode in a terrible way. And it's not going to be anything productive or beneficial to us or the other person. So the second reason why we need to dig and figure out why is we need to feel the feels. No matter how long it takes to experience them and to get over them and whatever it may be, we need to feel them. And then, because we've dug and we've figured out why, now we can really get to the core and bring that to that person and say, hey, I know this was something as simple as you didn't call me to tell me that you were coming home late. But I need you to know that the reason why I got so upset and the reason why it's taking me so long to let it go and forgive you is because I don't like, in this example, I don't like feeling like I'm not a priority. And when you don't do that, I don't feel like a priority to you. And my love language, because I know this about myself, that in this example, for the sake of this example, my love language is quality time. And if I don't get quality time with you, then I don't feel loved. And if I don't feel loved, then our relationship is, on a down and we need to bring it back up. And I want to always make you feel loved. So in return, please make me feel loved because that's how we stay, on the right course. So for the sake of that example, you can bring that reason to that person in a way that you can fully express it in words. Because sometimes when we're so caught up in our emotions, we don't have the words and we're just frustrated. And honestly, we just want to go and like punch a pillow, or we want to get in our car and blast our music and scream because we're so angry or so upset or hurt or whatever it may be. And sometimes you need to do that. That may be step one for you, because a lot of times that's step one for me. I mean, snaps if that's you. But if we find the words, we can bring it to that person and then they can have a better understanding for, next time we're in that situation. Okay, I know that this really upsets her when this happens. So let me try and make sure that I am better communicating with her so that she feels loved. For the sake of that example. So communicating it in a way that can be well received by the person who you are trying to forgive, but then also by you having the words, you can let it sink in and go, okay, I felt the feels. I know the reason why. I have the words, and I can really think through this and go, okay, I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to sit with it. And now I feel like I can let it go better. And um, the same thing goes for when we're expecting others to forgive us. But actually, before I get to that, I want to go back to the words. So, y'all have heard me talk about the enneagram before, and I'm not an expert on the enneagram. I just love it as a tool. If you haven't looked it up, go look it up. It's not necessarily a personality test or a personality like identifier, but it does help with understanding your core motivators and your core fears. And knowing your own fears and your motivators really help you to better understand yourself, to then kind of tease out like things like grudges and needing to forgive. If you know like deep down your biggest insecurity is safety and security, like you are motivated by it and you are terrified to not have it, which that's me. um Now I know like everything kind of boils down to that same fear when I'm in a situation where I get upset. Something has rocked my feeling of safety and security, and now I can't handle it. I can't forgive you. I feel like we've lost trust, whatever it may be. But the other good thing about the Enneagram is if you know how somebody else feels and you know their core motivators and their core fears, you can bring an issue that you have with that person to them and say, you know, this is the deal. And you can put it in a perspective that they understand, that they'll be really receptive to. Because it took me a long time to realize this. And this is why, part of the reason why I'm talking about this today is because in the past, I was the person that as soon as I was upset about something, I was going for the jugular, I was yelling, I was coming at you like an angry bear. Like that was what I did. And it would never be a good situation. It was always a destructive situation for me and the other person. And it would break relationships that I had, honestly. Like I was an explosive, really just gut punch every time when I was upset. And that's not something I'm receptive to. That is my automatic gut reaction that I've had to like reel in and realize, okay, is this going to be productive for this relationship in this situation? And if it's not, then let's not do that. Let's try something else. And understanding myself through, in this case, like learning about the Enneagram, learning about myself, and then knowing how the people that I'm closest to respond to certain things. Not everybody responds well to yelling. Most people don't. But not everybody responds well to being completely blunt and straightforward. Not everybody responds well to, let's talk about this here and now. If you know what that person responds to and what they are going to be most receptive to, if you present it in a way to them that they are most likely going to understand and be receptive, that is going to be so much more of a productive conversation. And you are going to have a better pathway to forgiving them forgiving you, whichever way it goes, whichever circumstance it is, whether you're the one seeking forgiveness or you are the one trying to forgive. If we are speaking each other's language, it's going to go a lot better. So I encourage you guys to kind of dig a little bit into the Enneagram. I know I talk about it a good bit here and there, little bits and pieces, but that helps a lot with forgiveness, in my opinion, and has gotten me to be a little bit better with it. But it still takes time, even if you do understand yourself a little bit better and you understand how somebody else is going to respond to something. It does take time because of that feelings component that we talked about. So, because we have to kind of sit in those feelings and really feel them, and we've taken the time to find the words for it, and we've also taken the time to look at their perspective. All of that together, it does take time. Um and the main reason that I've been talking about this, and it's not the example that I gave, and I don't want to dig too much into it, because it is a personal thing that I'm experiencing that I'm not ready to share yet. But um my I was raised with always play devil's advocate, always look for the other side of things, and sometimes that's really hard. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier. We need to see it from a perspective outside of our own, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. I know everybody's heard that before, but you can't constantly be self-focused. And there are a lot of times I've heard myself and others say like, "Oh, I'm so sensitive." Somebody actually asked to talk about, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm too sensitive. I think sometimes one, we're a little too harsh on ourselves with that. Um, it's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to feel the way you feel. It's okay to have to sit a little bit longer in your feels and, sparse out what they are. Um, But there are times where, we have these, like my heart's on my sleeve, and we kind of do this little pity party thing. And sometimes it's necessary for us to go through the process of forgiving. But I think it does help in that situation to kind of turn it and say, like, okay, the story that I'm telling myself, a- and let me see the full picture here of this situation. Um, my situation that I've really been dealing with is like, where do I fit into this puzzle with these people, and how is it different? What can I take responsibility for in this situation in order to help me forgive? Because it's not, when you're in a relationship with anybody and when you're in a situation where you need to forgive or you're asking for forgiveness, it's a two-person thing. It's a choice. It is a conversation. It is not one sided. And if you only focus on your perspective and you don't think from the lens of that other person and their experiences and I'm getting a little emotional, um, their circumstances and situation, you're going to take longer to try to forgive them because you think you have them all figured out, and you're not giving them grace to think about, you know, where they're coming from and what their pain points are and their insecurities and their struggles, You're not giving them that. And you would want that if it was flipped. You would want somebody to see your side and to be understanding of all of the things that are making you think and feel the way that you're thinking and feeling, and your pain points and insecurities. So think about those things before you just sit into me. Let me focus on why this hurt me and have this pity party for me. What happened in that situation truly? Are the things that you're telling yourself true? Are the things that you're telling yourself the reality? And if you think about what that other person may be going through and why this situation transpired the way that it did, it may not be as bad as you thought it was. And you may be closer to building that case on, I can forgive them, because it's not just about me. The story that I'm telling myself is no longer self focused. I've now put myself in that other person's shoes, and boy, does it change things. Um, and we need to remember that when we're trying to forgive somebody else and when we're seeking forgiveness. It's not something that they'll be able to do quickly. It's not something we'll be able to do quickly. And, you know, sometimes we think like, oh, I want this to be done with, but it's not that simple. And, wearing your heart on your sleeve also kind of makes me think about the lens of when we are seeking forgiveness from somebody. um we have this tendency to be like, all right, please like me again, please love me again, please forgive me, I'm so sorry I did that. And we want to be in good graces with that person, but we have to let that person do the same process that we're talking about here when we're trying to forgive. We have to give them time, we have to give them grace, and things just don't go back to being the way that they were if we truly hurt somebody or they truly hurt you. It takes time. It's not something that's quick and easy at all. It's a choice over and over and over again to just let those things go. Um and there was a recent situation that also kind of went hand in hand with all of this, that again added to the reason why I wanted to talk about this. My husband, y'all have heard me talk about him, and I am gonna get emotional again. Gosh, I just love him so much. Um, he gave me this perspective um that goes with forgiveness. He had some friends that didn't show up for, I'm gonna just be straight up, I'm gonna tell y'all, and if you guys listen to this, love you guys, but um they didn't show up for his wedding, to stand in his wedding, and I was so hurt by it. And I couldn't believe that he was so quick to forgive them and to let it go. And I asked him, I said, have you ever held a grudge before in your life? And he sat there and he thought, and he was like, no, I really don't think I have. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I get so heated, which, y'all, this is a true testament to opposites attract. He is so mellow and brings me down. I am the hothead. That's, like I said, I want to go for the jugular immediately, gut punch, gut reaction. Like, let's duke it out. And I've had to, reel it back and realize that that's not the solution. But he's been the one that kind of helped me through this forgiveness process. Thankful, so thankful for him. But he said, who am I to harbor this resentment or this grudge or this anger towards these people that, yes, they didn't show up for me on this day, and yes, I've shown up for them. And you could argue, oh, well, I've done so much for them, why couldn't they be here for me on the biggest day of my life, or one of the biggest days of my life? And he said, you know, what I may not know, because they had one of the people hasn't really talked to him, and he said, I don't know the story. How can I sit here and harbor hatred towards him or judgment or not forgive him when I don't know the full story? There's more to it. And boy, would I feel like an absolute jerk if one of my best friends felt like he couldn't talk to me and then eventually did talk to me, and there's something major going on in his life, and that was the reason why he couldn't be there. And another one of his friends, he knows that he's going through a lot, had, an ending of a relationship and difficulty with career potentially, and a bunch of unanswered questions. And all Randy, my husband, wanted to do was just be there for him. Not not hate him, not be angry with him. Just let it go, because at the end of the day, that's his friend and he cares about him. And that's just amazing to me and a foreign concept to me. But he's been an example of all these things that I talked about today. It's he put himself in their shoes and thought about the perspective that they have, and not just focus on his hurt and his pain. He did sit with his hurt and his pain, and he did tell them, these are the things that I'm feeling. He spoke to them about it. He did all of those things. And he's a great example for, the pathway to forgiveness, and has helped me on my own pathway to forgiveness for a lot of things. But the whole moral of this story is it takes time. It's not easy. It's a choice to forgive, and it's a choice to ask for forgiveness as well. That's just as hard. And we have to give ourselves grace. We have to be kind to ourselves in the process of forgiving and asking for forgiveness. If we're beating ourselves up on either end, or we're only self-focused, it doesn't get us anywhere. It just creates more anger and more hurt. And if we sit in those feelings and we find the words and we approach the person that we're trying to forgive from a perspective that they are going to be really receptive to, and we have that mature conversation, even though it's hard, you come out better. And the pain that you felt gets easier, and then you can let it go. So that's my talk about forgiveness. Like I said, it's been something that's on my heart, and I hope if you are in this position and you are looking for forgiveness, or you are trying to forgive somebody, I hope this is helpful to you. And know that we're in this together, struggling through the same things. No, it won't be easy. No, it won't be quick, but anything that's worth it takes time, and it takes effort and commitment. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And I hope it was something that was beneficial to you. So I love you guys. Y'all have a great day, night, wherever you're listening, whenever you're listening. Talk to y'all next time. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you got a little inspiration to start taking steps towards whatever it is you've been wanting to try. If you love this episode, share it on socials and tag me. I'd love to hear how it helped you. And of course, we got to get the word out to the other women who are needing that little extra push like you and I do. Can't wait to talk to you soon.